Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm your host, Katie Mox. Happy Christmas to everyone watching. Coming up on today's show, the Jags embarrassed the Jets last night on Thursday Night Football. Is the AFC South theirs for the taking? Plus, we'll give you our best Week 16 bets for the holiday weekend, and you know it. We've got some Mox Locks coming your way. Also, we've got some Caesar's same-game parlays. We're going to pick our favorites. But first, let's welcome in our guest, Kenny Bets Big. Kenny, how we feeling?
Feeling good. Coming off a so-so week. Didn't hit the Bucks. I know we're not going to talk too much about the Bucks, but man, I said if Tom lets me down, I'm done with him. So
are you?
Until the playoffs. Until the playoffs.
Okay. You're done with him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Tom Brady in the playoffs, different animal. You can't fade that guy.
I don't know. He's proven time and time again this year that you can definitely fade him. However, I respect it, what you're saying here. So let's get into Mox Thought, and let's talk about last night's game. The Jaguars completely manhandled the Jets last night, winning 19-3. It's their third straight win. Zach Wilson was pulled after a dismal performance in the first half. I've never quite heard a crowd boo a quarterback like that last night. Kenny, are the Jets done?
Well, yeah, the Jets are definitely done. I mean, I thought the Jets were done a couple
Put a fork in them.
Yeah, put a fork in them. But, I mean, we can't be surprised that Zach Wilson's getting booed. I mean, New York fans booed Aaron Judge, right? Like, after the guy broke records. So, but I got to say, like, Zach Wilson, and I think teams tend to hold on a little too long, especially when you spend, high draft capital like they did. But you can't put that guy out there. Like, he's not an NFL quarterback. The game is just way too fast for him. He looks lost out there. I think he's done. And this is just the most typical Jets season that you can imagine, because the draft loaded with QB talent.
Yeah.
Now you have a Jets team that's actually did somewhat something this year.
Yeah.
They don't have a great draft pick. So rather than, we all thought the Jets were going to stink coming into this year, they did a little better than we thought and kind of shot themselves in the foot and are not going to have an opportunity to draft one of those higher end quarterbacks.
They don't need to, because you know who's coming to New York? This guy, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what they need.
Do you think Jimmy ends up there?
Hell yeah. I was thinking last night when I saw Robert Saleh's face in the end, and I had actually tweeted this out, I was like, go get our guy. Go get Jimmy Garoppolo. First of all, they've got a great defense. They've got some offensive weapons. Garrett Wilson, what a stud that kid is. And so they just need someone who can actually efficiently run the offense. And Jimmy Garoppolo is great at that. So yeah, they already wasted so much on a top quarterback in the draft that ended up being a dud. They need a veteran quarterback that knows how to win. And who better than my guy, Jimmy G. Plus, I like to have him closer here in New York.
And they not only did they waste one, but two. Remember, they drafted Sam Darnold like 2 or 3 years before Zach Wilson. I want to see Lamar Jackson go to the Jets. Not as a Patriots
fan. You think he's leaving Baltimore?
I don't know. I mean, what's really there for him to stay? They've never put anything around him. Like he gets
so loyal though.
He is a loyal guy, and Baltimore, they are a good team, but they've never put any type of talented offensive skill position player around the guy. So yeah, I mean, what is really holding him there? But I don't know if that would happen. I think the Jimmy G is more of a likely scenario than Lamar Jackson going there, but it would be pretty cool to see Lamar in New York.
That would be cool. I don't think he leaves Baltimore. I think he's super, super loyal. I mean, the fact that he still wanted to play there and didn't accept them, like I can't see him going somewhere else. Plus, because he's so physical and because he runs so much, the more of the injury prone, which I know that Jimmy Garoppolo is also injury prone, but I just think, I don't know. I don't know that they would spend as much for Lamar Jackson. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a little bit cheaper now than he would have been. I don't think he's going to get a deal like he did with the 49ers, but obviously has familiarity with Robert Saleh. The Niners and the Jets have good communication between each other. We saw how much the Dolphins and the Niners did trades together, so I assume there's going to be the same thing with the Jets. I think Jimmy G to New York Jets next season. But let's talk about the other side. Oh, what were we going to say?
No, I was going to say that would be a great signing for the Jets because they got the defense, right? Like Saleh, great defensive coach. They got the talent on defense. So yeah, Jimmy G in a Jets uniform would be, definitely fitting.
Definitely fit. It'd be sad for me, but also I just want him to go to a good home. Like I'm talking to him about him like he's some kind of like adoptive dog or something. I just want him to go to a good home. But I do. I want him to go somewhere where he's going to be successful. And I do think that the Jets have the kind of pieces around him that he would be successful in. But let's talk about the other team last night. The Jags. Heading into last night, the Jags were already the favorite to win the AFC South at minus 160, even though they didn't have the best record. Now they're tied 7-7 with the Titans. Tannehill's not playing for the rest of the season. Are the Jags winning the AFC South? Because I kind of think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely seems that way. Odds makers seem to think that, right? Like anytime you have a team that is, I guess technically they were in second place last night, right, in the division, and anytime they're that much of a sizable favorite, like minus 160 to win the division, the odds are screaming at you that, the Jags are probably going to win that division. So, yeah, I mean, you look at both teams' remaining schedules, the Jags have a much easier final, run to the season. So I think the Jags are definitely going to win that division. And I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs because Trevor Lawrence has taken a huge step forward over this last 7-8 game stretch. Yeah. The defense is playing, amazing. Doug Peterson isn't getting talked about enough for the job he's done there because the Jaguars look really, really good.
I agree with you 100%. It's so interesting when we think about Trevor Lawrence because when he was coming out of the draft, people were saying that he was the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. Yeah. And then, of course, his first season under Urban Meyer seemed like such a bust, and he got a lot of criticism. Do you feel like now we are finally seeing the Trevor Lawrence that we thought we were going to get straight out of the draft?
Absolutely. And I don't even think he's anywhere close to his ceiling. I think he's halfway there. Trevor Lawrence, if he really locks in and reaches his full potential, he can be scary how good he is. And you look at the guys around him, Etienne's a nice piece, but it's not like he has Stephon Diggs or Travis Kelce or Justin Jefferson. Imagine you give him a bona fide number one wide receiver. He could do some scary things in this league for sure.
Absolutely. I love to see the tight end Ingram have such a big game last night. He really wasn't able to do a lot in New York, but the last couple games he's been on fire. And, I love tight ends. So I'm happy that he's found some success with Jacksonville as well.
Yeah, it's typical Giants and Jets misery, right? Where Evan Ingram played 32 games at MetLife Stadium, had his best game ever in MetLife as a Jaguar. So
that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. With Caesars Sportsbook and Casino, every bet earns with Caesars Rewards. That means whether you win or lose, you're always earning towards perks like free stays at iconic Caesars properties, game tickets, dining, and more. And if you haven't started yet, here's a reminder. Your first bet is on Caesars, up to $1,250. Download the app with promo code OMAHAFULL and place your first bet. If you win, congrats. If you don't, you'll get it back as a free bet. Lions, Tigers, and tailgates. Oh my, the college football season is always a great time of year. Besides the jerseys, the face paint, and the foam fingers, there's the food. And nothing gets you more fired up for game day than Eckrich smoked sausage. They're naturally hardwood smoked and have the perfect blend of spices. From buffalo sausage dip to sausage chili mac and cheese, Eckrich smoked sausage is a quick way to bring flavor to all your tailgate meals. Visit Eckrich.com for easy, one-of-a-kind sausage recipes. Eckrich, you do you. Time now for Capper's Corner. We'll welcome back in our guest, Kenny Bets Big. All right, it's time to give some picks for the weekend. First up, let's take a look at the totals. What is your favorite game total over or under for the weekend? There's 14 games slated, highest total 50 for the Packers and Dolphins, lowest 32 in the Saints and the Browns. What do you think?
So I'm looking at the Lions Panthers. I'm going to go under here. Opened up at 44.5. It's ticked down a little bit. It's currently sitting at 43.5. I still like it. 44 is a key number, so it's kind of unfortunate if you kind of miss that key line there. Yeah. But I still like the 43.5 line. Both these teams, one, it's a super low total. The Lions for a stretch there were putting up points nobody's business, and the defense was giving up points like nobody's business. So to see the total so low. And then when you look at the weather report, it's supposed to feel like it's 9 degrees at kickoff there in Carolina. So very, very cold game. If you just look at the trends over the last 15, 20 years of NFL games played in weather that cold, I think it hits the under at a 70% clip. Ooh. So yeah, I like the under there in that game.
It's so funny. We were talking about Ingram and how, funny it is, or not necessarily, hilarious, but interesting that he wasn't very good with the Giants. And then, of course, he goes over to Jacksonville. How about Jared Goff? I mean, that guy, the way that he is playing, it's just, I want to hate him. It's making it hard. He's balling out.
Yeah, it's good to see, right? I mean, and for a team like Detroit, who's been just a poverty franchise for what
Uh,
I mean, I'm 31. It feels like literally since I've been watching football, the Lions have stunk. Even when they had Barry Sanders, they weren't very good. But they trade Jared Goff for Matt Stafford. Everyone was kind of like,
and all
that's
the
it.
picks.
Yeah, and all the picks. You can't forget those because it looks like the Lions are going to have a top 5 draft pick this year, and they get Jared Goff. So the Lions have set themselves up for a very nice future here. And if Jared Goff can continue to play at this level, I mean, the Lions look good going forward. And it's
Well,
funny, I saw a stat comparing them. Stafford and Goff's numbers are like almost identical in every passing category, throughout their careers like this point.
Well, and what I think is just so obviously I'm a 49ers fan and I don't really like the Rams all that much. So it's just hilarious to me that this trade, I mean, whatever, they got their Super Bowl, which is all that they wanted to do. But the fact that I thought originally that maybe they would keep Goff for a couple years and then get rid of him, pick up a quarterback with some of those picks that they got. Now it seems that they're going to keep Goff because he's playing so well. And then, like you said, get those other pieces. And the Lions might have multiple Super Bowls by the time that the Rams can win another one, because the Rams are just in absolute shambles.
So let me ask you this, though. And I mean, it's a little different because obviously everything's not the same, but we'll just use Brock Purdy as like your version of Jared Goff, right?
Yeah.
Would you trade Brock Purdy, knowing that he's going to go on to have a good career, to get like a Tom Brady to come to the
No.
Niners for 1 year? You win a Super Bowl, though. Would you take that?
No, because I believe we're going to win a Super Bowl this year with Mr. Brock Purdy,
I knew that
irrelevant
was
turned
coming.
goat. And here's the thing, and I hear this all the time. Everybody's like, oh, Tom Brady's going to SF. And like, yes, Tom Brady wants to come to San Francisco. One, it's his hometown. It's where his family is, all right? Who doesn't want to come home? And two, who wouldn't want to come play with the 49ers? When you look at that defense, and then you're going to give Tom Brady, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle, and Juszczyk, and Ayuk, and all that. Like, of course he wants to come to San Francisco. I don't think there's a quarterback in the league that'd be like, that's a place I don't want to play. However, we don't need Tom Brady. I can understand if it was still, to be fair, and I love Jimmy Garoppolo, but if it was still Jimmy versus Trey and there was all that kind of controversy and they didn't necessarily think that Trey was going to be ready and maybe it's time to move on for Jimmy, I can understand getting Tom Brady in that. But now you got Trey Lance, which I think Trey Lance is moving. I think he's a really nice kid, and I'm starting to feel bad for him. Originally, I was like very hard on the Jimmy G thing, and now I kind of feel bad for Trey Lance. I don't think that he should be our starting quarterback, though. You look at how well Brock Purdy is doing. Let's see how far these Niners get. But if they get to a Super Bowl or an NFC Championship game and can win it under Brock Purdy, there's no reason to go for Trey Lance, and there's no reason to go for Tom Brady.
What about like Aaron Rodgers? You think there's any chance Aaron Rodgers ends up there next year?
I think there's more chance that Tom Brady ends up there than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I could
Well,
see
one,
that.
I don't think we need a quarterback. And, the Tom Brady angle is at least kind of fun to root for, even though I'm not. But that angle seems more fun to me than Aaron Rodgers. At least Tom Brady likes his family and they all live there. Aaron Rodgers, it's like, well, who's he going to talk to?
Well, isn't he from Southern California too? And
He's from Northern California. He's not exactly from the Bay Area. He's from like believe he's from like Butte or like near Paradise. It's kind of like in the Sacramento Valley, where he's from. It's kind of small town. But he went to Butte Community College, but I believe he lives like in and around near Paradise, or his family. But I mean again, I guess I don't know if he's talking to his family. That's, of course, the big news that he doesn't. But we know Tom Brady has family and friends because he had 100 tickets to the Bucks and 49ers game. And look, it would be a great story to have Tom Brady come to the Bay Area. I just don't think that the Niners need him, so they're not going to be willing to pay for him for one season because we don't need a one-season quarterback.
Yeah, and then it would be bad news for you because you'd have the 49ers mush every single week rooting for the 49ers. So
For that alone, Tom, stay out of the Bay Area, okay? Yeah, that would be – but it's just so funny when everyone's like, oh, Tom wants to go there. I'm like, duh. Who wouldn't want to go there? Like, really? Who wouldn't want to come to San Francisco with the way that the team is built right now?
Yeah, John
Anyways.
Lynch. And John Lynch, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but John Lynch, best GM in football. I mean, that team is from the top to the bottom just stacked, just
Yeah.
absolutely stacked, and it's crazy. I don't know how he's doing it.
I don't know how he's doing it either, but you love to see it. You really do. Okay, so we went off on a tangent there, people, but we're going back to the total and our favorite total for the weekend. Mine is going to be the lowest total on the board, the Saints and the Browns. I'm taking the over 32. So this is just wild to me. I looked at some stats. It is tied for the lowest total since the 2008 Bengals and Browns game. That was the last time there was a total as low as 32. I know it's cold. 11 degrees. Apparently it's going to feel like minus 19. And the Saints have the worst scoring offense in the league, averaging just 14 and a half points per game. But one thing that I've learned from ex-professional football players, particularly defenders, is that they will make business decisions in the cold. Those hits body to body hurt even more than catching a frozen ball. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people aren't trying as hard to get those tackles, and this goes above 32.
I like that little insider info from Katie Mox over.
Yes. Yes. I've in working in sports media, I work with a lot of analysts that are former pro football players. And I remember hearing it and I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. He was like, when it's cold, we don't want to hit anybody, unless if someone is kind of running right by us, we could just kind of fall over or whatever. They don't want those hits because you can imagine how much a frozen football hurts catching it. A big body like that? No, thank you. No, thank you.
It's the same thing for baseball. Like in the cold, they don't want to. I mean, obviously they want to, but hitting the ball, I know it really stings the hands. So you'll see in cold days, the hits drop significantly.
Yes, exactly. So this total is just too low for me. I think they're going to put some points on the board. All right, let's talk about the spread for the weekend. What is the favorite spread that you like? Highest is the Chiefs, minus 10 versus the Seahawks, which to me feels slightly disrespectful. I mean, I know that the Niners were able to hold them out, but that's the Niners defense. Otherwise, the Seahawks have been pretty good putting points on the board. And then there's quite a few 2.5 spreads, Lions, Panthers, Steelers, Raiders, Broncos, and Rams to round out the lowest spreads, all under a field goal. What do you think?
It's a tough slate, honestly, when I was looking through this. The game that jumps out to me, and, I don't know how I feel, especially after last week taking it, but the Pats, I mean, you look at what the Bengals have been doing over, the last 7-8 weeks. They look like one of the best teams in the league. Joe Burrow has, Mahomes is a sizable favorite, but Burrow has catapulted himself into at least the discussion, right?
Yes.
And then, you see the second half. That was probably one of the best halves I've ever seen a football team play against the Bucs last week. Unfortunately for me and my bet, but yeah, and then you see how the Patriots lost last week, and then this line is only 3. Like I would expect this line to be more about like a 4.5 line, especially.
Ooh, okay. So you're saying they're almost like tricking you. The books are trying to bait you into this one.
Yeah, it just feels like one of those trap lines. We've done a couple that segment, gift or trap, and this kind of feels a little bit of a trap where everyone, Joe Public is going to look at this and say, "Oh, Bengals, were in the Super Bowl last year. Joe Burrow is balling out.
Yep.
Have to win by a field goal. Yeah, give me the Bengals all day." And you and I both know whenever that happens, that's not typically how the game tends to play out. So, yeah, I mean, Bill Belichick coming off that loss to his former assistant or coordinator McDaniels, the way they lost, I think the team's just going to be fired up, and I think we'll come out and we'll see them play a very good game and take Jamar Chase out of the equation and slow down the Bengals offense.
Speaking of that game, there was a viral clip that went around, Kenny. I don't know if you saw it, where there was a Patriots fan that was at Allegiant Stadium, and there was this really trashy woman that was wearing a Derek Carr jersey that was just telling him that he shouldn't be there cheering for the Patriots in her house, and was just belligerently in screaming at this guy in his face, being extremely aggressive. And he was just kind of standing there and taking it. Now, of course, this is a black man and a white woman, so we know that there's no way that this guy could have reacted to her. And he showed incredible restraint. One, this woman is a loser. And if I were Derek Carr, I would say, please don't ever wear my jersey again because you are a disgrace to this team and my good name. One, and she should never be allowed to go to games again. And Robert Kraft apparently found out who this guy is, and he's going to be a special guest at the Patriots game. So I feel like that's a good ending to a horrible story.
Yeah, so I think what I need to do now is go to a game and pay someone to just belligerently scream at me for Robert
It's
Kraft.
not going to be me.
I mean, hey, we'll say at least her fate was not like that. The video I sent you and Danny this morning of that guy getting at the Bears game getting pushed down the
Oh.
bleachers. Like,
Okay, and I don't know if y'all have seen this one, but there was and I don't even know what kind of fan he was because this fella was wearing a Green Bay Packers sweatshirt, a Cowboy scarf, and some other team on his head. I'm
yeah,
blanking on,
The Eagles
and an
like
Eagles
hat.
beanie.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was sitting there and he was trash talking the Bears fans way up in the nosebleeds at Soldier Field. And he was being a jerk and certainly deserved to have some kind of repercussion, whether that be, some kind of argument or whatever. What happened is there's a Bears fan that I think it seemed like he tried to give this guy a wedgie. It's a larger individual. And then he tried to throw him down the concrete stairs at the top of Soldier Field, which I'm sorry, that is attempted murder, if you ask me, because you could easily break someone's neck. Now, luckily, the guy was fine. I don't know if the other guy's been, but y'all need to chill out at these games, okay? I will say, I'm a passionate fan, but games are meant to be enjoyed by everyone. If someone is a jerk, there's always that number you can text, have that person removed. Don't let it ruin your time and don't ruin somebody else's time. Like, everyone's there to have fun. It's very expensive to go to NFL games. Relax, enjoy it. Playful trash talk is fine, but don't be a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we've heard stories. I know you're from California, so you've probably heard it more than I have. Where like the Dodgers fans or the Raiders fans,
Yeah.
they used to get real crazy, right? Like, guys, it's a sporting event. It's a
Not that
game.
serious.
These guys don't care about you. You shouldn't care that much about them. Yeah, it's never worth ruining your life for a couple minutes of
Never.
action.
And I will say the funniest thing, and I've, you know, the Dodgers and the Giants, there's always, and there was what was his name? The Brian something that was in a coma after being a Giants fan at a Dodger game. And I've been to 49ers games where even the 49ers fight their own fans. And one guy was in a coma from, an altercation in a bathroom at Levi's Stadium. I lost my train of thought on this one and where I was going. So I guess we'll just get into my favorite spread bets since I don't know where I was going with that one. But I like the Niners, surprise, surprise. However, I'm taking them in the first half, -3.5 versus the Commanders is at -110. I like the Niners in this spot, but laying an entire touchdown when they've already clinched a playoff spot just feels a little trappy to me. It's that time of year where coaches start to play it more conservative, especially when you think Brock Purdy had, his, what was it, his oblique and his rib injury. And I'm sure he's fine to play, but you want to be more conservative with him. Christian McCaffrey's had a little bit of some knee soreness. You probably want to be a little bit more conservative with him. So I'm liking this first one. Also, since Brock Purdy took over, they averaged 19.7 points per game in the first half compared to Washington that only scores about 8.7 in the first half. Also, this Niners defense, we talk a lot about how great they are in the second half, right? They had those almost, believe it was 4 games of shutouts in the second half. They're number 1 in the fewest points allowed in the first half, actually. Just 4.3 points in the last 3 games have the Niners allowed opposing teams to score. So it's insane. Kinlaw's coming back. It's going to be scary for the commies. Give me the Niners -3.5 in the first game. And of course, I like them to win this game as well.
The defense is historically scary. They're so good. And I mean, Nick Bosa, I think he's minus like 125, 130, depending where you look, to win Defensive Player of the Year. That feels like free money to me because he's changed. Yeah. It's almost like he's changed that team. When Garoppolo went down, he's really stepped up, and the defense has carried them for a few games here.
Absolutely. And, I have been shouting on rooftops Nick Bosa for Defensive Player of the Year. I think we could look back at earlier episodes from the beginning. And I remember saying, like, you got to get him, you got to get him. And now, of course, he's the favorite. And, the price isn't as good as it was earlier in the season when everyone was super high on Micah Parsons. And I agree with you because Bosa really took it hard, too, when Jimmy G went down. Apparently, he gave a speech in the locker room and was very emotional about it. This is a guy that people compare to a caveman that really doesn't have a lot to say most of the time. And to your point, he's really stepped up, and this defense is it's unbelievable. It really is. So speaking of things that are unbelievable, let's talk about some moneyline underdogs for this weekend. The Seahawks are the biggest underdogs at +360. And then you've got some -160s, -320. There's some big underdogs on this. Who are you liking?
Well, just hearing you say the Seahawks at plus 360, I don't hate that. I think they're being very
You think they could beat
disrespected
the
here.
Chiefs?
I don't think they'll beat them. That's not my pick here. I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
the Eagles, but I'm just saying plus 360 is very disrespectful for a team that,
Yeah.
a
The
week or
10 is
two ago.
disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I'm going to go Eagles here. Now it's plus 175. You could have got it earlier over plus 200 if you jumped on that.
Oof.
And it just feels too much like, obviously the Cowboys played the Eagles earlier this year with their backup. Now the Eagles have their backup. And I feel like the Eagles are going to come into this game. The Cowboys were doing a lot of talking, a lot of talking, 2 weeks prior, the week before they played the Jaguars. And I think the Eagles just are writing all of that down, bulletin board material. They've the one loss, and I feel like they're still the most slept on team in the NFL. I feel like not enough people are really talking about them.
About the Eagles?
Yeah, because
Who is sleeping on the Eagles or not talking about how they're the best team?
When I ask you who's the NFC favorite to win the out of the NFC, who are you going to say? You're not going to say the Eagles.
I'm saying the NFC Championship game will be the Eagles and the 49ers, and it's going to be a battle.
Okay, I personally, I think the Eagles are not being talked about enough for how good they have been. There's been a couple games where it looked like they would maybe slip up and they just find ways to win, get it done. Even last week versus the Bears, right? The Bears were keeping it close. They have that big game against Dallas the following week. Typically, we see teams kind of slip up and get caught up in that, look ahead spot. Yeah. And the Eagles have just been trucking along, humming along, getting it done. And I think, we talked about how dominant the Niners defense has been. I feel like maybe they're peaking too soon, whereas the Eagles peaked early. They kind of, fell off a little bit. And I feel like they're going to hit that stride again heading into the playoffs, and it's going to be a perfect time for them to just get things rolling. I like the Eagles here. I think Dallas is fraudulent. You and I have agreed on that pretty much all year.
Yes, and unfortunately, we've got Owen listening into this podcast, who is our social media producer, who is unfortunately a Cowboys fan. So sorry, Owen. But yes, the Cowboys are frauds. And I agree with you. And I'm on the Eagles money line as well. One, I'm all in on Minshew mania. Okay, I love this guy. Two, this line flip is just a complete overreaction to Jalen Hurts because, to your point, this is a complete team. It's not just the quarterback. And if we want to make some comparisons with the 49ers, we lost all two of our top quarterbacks. And then we had our third stringer come in, and look at how well the offense is still moving. Now, that's not to take anything away from Brock Purdy. The kid's a stud, but it's all of the pieces around him working together. And as long as they have someone that can manage the game, which, by the way, Minshew can, they're going to be fine. And listen to these nuggets. Minshew has 41 passing touchdowns and 12 interceptions in his NFL career. That's the third best among all active quarterbacks behind who? Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. It goes Rodgers, Mahomes, Minshew. I'm sorry, what? And we do know that the Cowboys can create a lot of pressure. They have the highest pressure rate this season at 42%. Minshew has the best touchdown to interception ratio, 17-4 under pressure since 2019. So yes, Eagles money line plus 175 all day long. It's actually one of my favorite plays of the weekend.
Yeah, and then, just look at this year alone as our sample size. How many times have, like, Mike White, right, rush for the Cowboys? How many times have we seen Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, where the starter goes down, the backup comes in, everyone writes them off, but they're not writing back, and they get the job done. So, yeah, I like the Eagles a lot in this spot.
And this is the year of the underdog quarterbacks, the backup quarterbacks just coming in and dominating. I never thought about that, but yeah, they got them dog in them, which we appreciate here. Okay, so let's talk about some props. What is a prayer? What is a prayer prop? Because you got to pray on these things anyways, but a player prop that you like to hit an over on this holiday weekend slate.
I'm looking at Travis Kelce over 5.5 receptions. The Seahawks, we saw what George Kittle did to them a week ago. The Seahawks can't stop the tight end. You and I have both kind of talked about this before, where when George Kittle or Travis Kelce has a good game, it almost seems like the other guy then has a good game, right? It's like they're kind of secretly in competition with one another. So Kittle last week goes for 493 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Kelce is poised to have a monster game here against one of the worst teams in regards to DVOA versus the tight end. So yeah, give me Travis Kelce over 5.5 catches.
Love that. I mean, Travis Kelce has just been a beast all season long and has been making everybody a ton of money. I'm going to go Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns. This is at even money. Yes, it's going to be cold AF in Chicago, 10 degrees with 23-mile-per-hour winds. However, if anybody could do it, it's Josh Allen. He's had 9 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 2 games in freezing temperatures. You're going to give me Josh Allen to get 2 passing touchdowns at even money. I will take that all day long.
Feels a little trappy, but it also seems like one that should easily cash, right? Like it seems like, why is that so low? But yeah, I mean,
well, because it's freezing.
Yeah, I guess the weather is probably more of a factor in the odds of that, right?
But you know what? I'm just fading the weather a lot this weekend. There was so much talk about the weather for the Thursday night game, and it barely affected the only thing that affected the way that game played was Zach Wilson and the Jags defense and how good, sunshine brought the sunshine to the game. But the weather wasn't really a factor. So much goes into the weather. These are professional athletes, okay, where they're going to figure out a way to get it done.
Are you like, because I'm that's one of the biggest things for me, where I'll listen to like a Sports Center, Stephen A. Smith, and what these guys are just propagating out to everyone, just blasting it in your face. And when I hear that, it's something I, like you just said, kind of just tune it out. It's white noise and just do the opposite. And it works out more than it doesn't.
Well, look at Trevor. When I was betting last night's game, and I did a prop segment when I was on Sportsline last night, and when I was looking at the prop line earlier in the week, all of these prop lines just completely plummeted, and it was all weather related. You had Trevor Lawrence, his passing yards opened up at 29.5, then it dropped to 24.5, and it got as low as 211.5. He had 229 last night. So the weather did nothing for him. He surpassed every single one of his prop lines, no matter what happened. So it's like sometimes when you watch these things plummet so much, or you see something like, oh, Josh Allen at even money for 2 passing touchdowns, which seems like a layup. I'm going to take the even money on this one. I'm going to fade the weather.
Yeah, I like that. I actually might ride that one with you because I think the Bears are just poverty.
Yeah, we could have a whole segment about that if we want to talk about it. Okay, so now for a fade, we know I'm fading the weather, but who do you like to go under on a prop bet this weekend?
David Njoku, tight end for the Cleveland Browns. They're going up against the Saints, who are number 2 in regards to DVOA versus opposing tight ends. They've been one of the stingiest teams stopping tight ends this year. So, yeah, I think David Njoku in that very cold environment, taking his under yards, receiving yards, 24.5. He barely went over this last week, and that was on 3 catches. He had 6 targets against a defense that's not nearly as good against the tight end as the New Orleans Saints. So I think the Saints are going to be able to slow down that, passing attack. Deshaun Watson, creepy Deshaun, as he's been dubbed on the show. And I think that one should cash pretty easy. I like that one a lot.
I like that a lot too. I'm going to ride that one with you. This is more of like a gut play to me, but I'm going to take the Raiders star back, Josh Jacobs, under 82.5 rushing yards. And I know you're like, what the hell, Katie? You're crazy because Josh Jacobs is a stud and he has the 4th most scrimmage yards in Raiders history, 1,858 this year. He's had multiple games, certainly recently, going over 100 rushing yards per game. The Pittsburgh run defense has been really good. They just dominated Carolina last week, only allowing 23 yards. But this game is personal to Steeler Nation. It's the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Harris made one of the most iconic plays, if you don't know about this, in NFL history on December 23rd, 1972 against the Oakland Raiders. And unfortunately, Franco Harris just passed away 2 days before he was supposed to come to this ceremony, and they were going to retire his jersey. It's only the 3rd Steelers jersey to ever be retired. They're going to be playing with heart, and they're going to be playing for Franco Harris. And Josh Jacobs and the Raiders should be very afraid because I don't think anything's happening for them on Saturday.
Yeah, when a mascot dies, a team legend dies, it's a mortal lock. It's as Big Cat from Barstool has coined it. It's a mortal lock. So, yeah, and the Steelers have the best coach to get that team fired up for this situation. Like, Mike Tomlin is super rah, getting the guys fired up. Yeah, I think, I would
the
not.
The atmosphere inside of the stadium formerly known as Heinz, I don't even know what it is now. I refuse to call it anything else. It's just going to be palpable. Like, it's going to be something out of this world, and they're going to be playing like it's a playoff game, I believe. So I fear for the Raiders, and I don't think that Josh Jacobs is going to get as much ground as he normally would.
Yeah, and then coming off the way they won that game, you could talk about what you want. The Raiders stink this year. They've blown huge leads. So yeah, I think the Raiders are getting set up for a steamroll here by the Steelers.
Ooh, a steamroll by the Steelers. Okay, so let's talk about anytime touchdown scores. What do you think?
This one's a little juicy. Normally, I would never tell someone to lay the juice like this, but McCaffrey just got snubbed on the All Star team, and
Good point.
yeah, just got snubbed on the All Star team. And normally, what does
Egregious.
he really care? But I saw you tweeting it, chiming in. I saw Kittle and all the 49er faithful chiming in, saying how terrible of a decision that was.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I think McCaffrey's going to get one. I think he'll probably get two, which is plus 305 on Caesar Sportsbook. One touchdown is minus 170. I like run CMC to get into the end zone this week.
Hell yeah, I love this one. Wait, hold on. Let me find the exact numbers. Okay, hold on. Sorry for those listening at home. I'm just pulling something up. Okay. All-purpose yards of all NFC running backs. Christian McCaffrey, 1,582. Saquon Barkley, 1,464. He got a Pro Bowl. Tony Pollard, 1,279. He got a Pro Bowl. Miles Sanders, 1,182. He made the Pro Bowl. So you're telling me the guy that's got the most yards in the NFC didn't make the Pro Bowl? And by the way, he switched teams. He's had to learn two different offenses. So yeah, don't get me started on that. Christian McCaffrey all day long. And did I hear you say 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns, which we did this last week with George Kittle. And for anyone that was listening, it cashed big plus money. Yeah, 2 touchdowns is plus 305. And can you imagine how many yards McCaffrey would have if he was on the Niners the whole season?
Just filthy. And by the way, that's another reason why Tom Brady would like to come to San Francisco. Okay, so my touchdown score is actually very complimentary to yours because after Christian McCaffrey left Carolina, Dante Foreman became the RB number 1 for the Panthers. So I like him for an anytime touchdown. This is at plus 140. He's been up and down, all right? He hasn't had the greatest season in the world. And he's not gotten in the end zone in the last 4 games, but they've been up against some really tough defenses, Pittsburgh, Denver, Baltimore. The Lions, for as good as they've been playing, they've allowed the 5th most rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. And when Foreman has scored, it's been against some of those weaker defenses that have allowed running backs into the end zone. So I feel like at plus 140, it's a good spot for him.
I like that. That's you sniped that one. That's a sneaky one, especially it's been 4 games since he's gotten in the end zone.
Well, and I did see that you were taking Christian McCaffrey earlier today, and I thought, how can I have a complimentary one? So that's what we came up with today. Okay, let's talk about same game teasers or parlays. Same game parlay or a teaser for the games this weekend. What are you looking at?
All right. Well, I must not have read the rules here. It's not a same game, but it's a parlay. I'm going to go Travis. We'll blame that on the producers.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce anytime touchdown and Tony Pollard anytime touchdown. And this is why you need to use Caesar Sportsbook because they're a little line shopping here. You put this in on Caesars, it's plus 299. If you were to put this same bet in on FanDuel, it's plus 229. Ooh. So huge difference in the payout on Caesars versus some of these other sports books. But yeah, I like Kelce to get in the end zone and Tony Pollard. He's just been an absolute beast this year, so I think he'll find the end zone as well.
All right, I think that cashes. If you're going to have me do a same game parlay on the entire slate of the NFL, I'm obviously going to go with what I know the best, and that's the 49ers, okay? So I'm taking Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He has recorded at least 2 passing touchdowns in all 3 of his games played so far this year. I'm taking McCaffrey to score a touchdown. We already know that we like this. He's also found the end zone in both Purdy starts. No Debo. Makes it easier for him. And all the reasons you just said, he's on a mission. And I'm taking Kittle over 3.5 receptions. Kittle has been on fire. He's had at least 5 targets and 4 receptions in the last 2 games. Again, under Purdy. All of this cashes, which, it's going to, plus 510.
Yeah, and plus 510, I mean, listening to that, it doesn't sound too crazy, right? Like George Kittle's been balling. Brock Purdy hasn't done anything wrong since he's taken over. And we already know CMC is finding 6. So
absolutely finding 6. Okay. Speaking of same game parlays, we're going to do something new each day. We're going to take a look at Caesars featured same game parlays, and we're going to pick our favorite to play. Here are Fridays. Start a new streak is at plus 370. That is the Knicks and the Bulls. There is an all-star showdown, plus 675. That's the Sixers and the Clippers. The Nets to stay on fire, plus 625. Bucks at Nets. And then the MVP favorite, plus 750, Mavericks at Rockets. What are you going to play here?
Which, shout out to you for calling the Doncic MVP. That looks great. I'm going to go with the All-Star Showdown, the same game parlay between the Sixers and the Clippers. That one consists of Joel Embiid over 10.5 rebounds. The guy's 7 feet tall. If you can't get over 10.5 rebounds, get out of the league.
Get out.
James Harden over 9.5 assists. I mean, if you can't get 10 assists, you're out there doing cardio, James, which, I mean, he kind of needs. And Kawhi over 25.5 points and rebounds. The Claw, he's back from injury. He's been balling. The Clippers look like a totally different team when he's out there versus when he's not. So 25.5 points and rebounds, I think, should be pretty easy for him to get. And this one comes in at plus 675. So pretty good odds. And I like what Caesars put together here. I think this is a winner.
I think that's a winner too. I'm going with the MVP favorite. As you know, I've got a futures ticket riding on Luka as the MVP favorite as it is. So this is a plus 750. Luka Doncic is the only player in the NBA to currently rank in the top 5 in both points and assists this season. The parlay consists of Luka total points over 29.5, total assists over 9.5, rebounds over 7.5, and then the Dallas money line. And look, Luka dropped 30 points on the Rockets earlier this season, 14 rebounds and 6 assists in that game. And of course, the Mavs beat Houston by 13 points. Luka also averages 32 points, 8.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists in 13 games played just this month. And you know, the Texas, between Dallas and Houston, they always play each other really well. It's going to be a Christmas game. I like Luka to just put on a show and drop some presents in the basket like Santa does down the chimney. You like that?
Yeah, that was nice. I like that.
I like that too. It just came to me in the moment, in the holiday spirit. All right, the time has come now for Mox.
How long did it take you to write that joke?
You know, sometimes things just come to me. Sometimes things just come to me like that did. But now the time has come for Mox Locks. What are your best holiday bets of the weekend? I will start.
Ooh, okay, yeah,
I will start.
Yeah,
I will start.
That was rude of me.
I also did say what are yours and then decided to go, so it's kind of rude of me. But you know, it's we're going this way. I'm going Steelers minus 2.5. We already talked about this. There's no way. There's just no way that the Raiders win that game. Give me the Steelers minus 2.5 all day long, and give me that Eagles money line all day long. Minshew mania, here for it. Let's go.
Well, I mean, so we're aligned, and for the people listening, we did not plan this. Like Katie does her bets, I do my bets. I'm going Eagles plus 4.5. It's honestly one of my favorite bets of the week. I think no Jalen Hurts, no problem. And you kind of talked me into it. I have to go with the Steelers here. Franco Harris, unfortunately, God rest his soul, passes, Steeler legend. Yeah, you can't lose that game on that day like that. Yeah.
Well, the fact that he passed away 2 days before the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, they're having a huge 50th anniversary halftime show. They're retiring his jersey just the 3rd. You know that his spirit is going to be there somehow, just willing this team to win. So it feels like, not the same thing at all, but it feels like Rudy. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like there's going to be something special there. And you got to hammer the Steelers.
And the Steelers are minus 2.5 there, right?
That's it. Yeah, less than a field goal.
And no Kenny Pickett, obviously. So even without him to be favored over the Raiders, like I think the public perception is going to be to take the Raiders there in that spot.
Yeah.
But I think the Steelers should get that one done easily.
100%. All right, we're on the same page, which I do appreciate, except for when we're on different pages for the Niners. I also appreciate that as well. Kenny, thank you so much. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. It is our last show of the year. Next week, we will be dark. So just want to say happy holidays to everyone. Thank you so much for rocking with us this year. It has been so fun. 2022 for me, I don't know if you guys know this. I started out just doing content on Instagram as like a passion project and a creative outlet for myself. And then all of a sudden come, 2022, not only does Peyton Manning know who I am and that I exist, but he's technically my boss. And I get to work with the incredible people at Omaha Productions. You guys are all so wonderful. Thank you so much for taking a chance on me and this show. And we look forward to more great content for you guys and winning bets in 2023. Happy holidays. We'll see you soon.